Now, there's a big reason why a lot of people get confused around reps and sets when it comes to calisthenics, bodyweight training, handstands, mobility, and things like that. It's because it comes down to lots of factors. So we have the level of the person, so whether they're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced. Imagine that as a long line, and it changes per exercise. So you might have a beginner when it comes to chin-ups, but when it comes to push-ups, they're an intermediate to an expert. They might be great when they're on P-bars, but if they start training on the floor, they have to drop back to more beginner intermediate levels. You need to take into consideration how many sessions you're doing per week and what the rest of your session entails. But today I'm going to take you through a few concepts that will make it a little bit easier to work out what rep range, what sets, what TUT, where's TUT? TUT, time under tension you need to do. Now let's keep it super simple to start with. So let's look at the beginner that needs to build some initial strength and conditioning in the basic skills. So basic skills like push-ups, rows, squats, dips, chin-ups, and are starting to work on their handstand for the first time. So we just need to get that person used to training. So we're going to be higher up on the repetitions, around 6 to 10 repetitions for 2 to 3 sets. So the volume isn't massive, but we're keeping the repetitions high enough so the intensity is staying low to medium. If you take the repetitions down and say, I want you to do a deadlift with a 1 rep max, suddenly the intensity is very, very high. The body hasn't had time to adapt to that style of training, and it's more likely that you're going to get injured or just to not have good training. But if that person's a little bit more experienced, then we can start to move them towards what's seen as the best set range for general strength, which is a 5x5. So 5 repetitions of 5 sets. And a nice safe way to monitor that training is to make sure that you have 1 to 2 reps in reserve. So what that means is that I'm going to use a weight or an exercise progression that allows me to do 7 repetitions before I hit failure, but I'm only going to do 5 repetitions times 5 sets. The person that's a little bit more advanced can push that to a true 5x5. So you're doing maximum intensity, maximum work for 5 repetitions per 5 sets. And that might even mean on some of the sets, you don't actually make the 5 repetitions, you get 4.5. So that's showing you're truly working a strong 5x5. And like I say, that's seen as the best way to get strong in the shortest amount of time. Now for the advanced person, we can push that even more. We can increase the sets, which allows us to lower the repetitions, which allows us to increase the intensity. So now we could be doing that same maxing out like we was on the 5 repetitions, but now we're going to drop the reps to 3, or even going down to like single repetitions. Now, if you're going to go single repetitions or lower reps, you need to up the sets. Hence, I've put 8 sets here. If you was doing single reps, so only 1 of each, you might need to go up to 10 sets, something like that. But a really nice way of doing that to get the body conditioned and ready to hit those higher intensity sets is to use a pyramid. I couldn't spell pyramid, so I've drawn a pyramid. But the idea is that is you start off with higher repetitions with a lighter load or lower intensity, and then each set you decrease the repetitions and increase the intensity until you peak at a 2 or a single rep maximum intensity lift. Now, where it gets a little bit more confusing is when we start to look at the skills and also things like handstands where we need conditioning. So that beginner, intermediate level, we're going to have slightly lower time for our conditioning, so around 30 to 45 seconds. And we're just going to need to know our regressions or our progressions of a skill to allow that time. So if we take something like a handstand, but you can't hold a freestanding handstand for 30 to 45 seconds, then we're going to need to do a chest to wall handstand. If you can't hold the chest to wall handstands for that 30 to 45 seconds, we're going to need to go to something easier like a body line drill or hollow body hold on the floor. And then as you get stronger, more conditioned, you can either go up through the progressions of the exercise, keep the time the same, or you can increase it to around 60 seconds or even plus 60 seconds while you're also going harder with the progressions. So that intermediate to advanced could be doing a freestanding handstand, or if you took it to an extreme, a 1-arm handstand for 60 seconds. But remember, with the conditioning holds, that wants to be something that you can hold good control, good positioning, good technique. So most people aren't going to be doing a 1-arm handstand. Most people aren't going to be doing a 60-second freestanding handstand hold in the middle of the room. Even if they can do a 60-second hold, they might be doing a chest to wall hold with very light toes on the wall, and then their 60 seconds is when they're doing their max freestanding hold, because they could fall out of it at 45 seconds, meaning it wouldn't be a good conditioning hold for them. Now, when it comes to skills, so you could think of a chin-up as a skill, you could think of a planche as a skill, a handstand push-up, a press to handstand, a muscle-up. So all things that have a lot of components going into them. We need to train it in a way where we can police some of the aspects. So a good way of doing that is thinking about the TUT, so the time under tension. So your time under tension per repetition is going to be dictated by the tempo. That says temp. So the tempo is going to dictate how much time under tension per rep that we have. And the most common way to write tempos is like this. So the first number is the down phase or the muscle lengthening phase. So let's call that the eccentric. So let's give that an E. Then we have a hold at the bottom or the top, depending on which direction you're going in. Then we have the concentric. Now I've put an X there. So an X means as fast as you can, but it could be a 1 or a 2, so it means seconds. So let's put a C there for concentric. And then the next one is a hold as well. So if you use that same example and do a 4-2-X2, what that means in a push-up is that I'm going to do 4 seconds on the eccentric. So 1, 2, 3, 4, a 2-second hold, 1, 2. Push up as fast as possible, that's the X, and then a 1, 2 hold at the top, and then I go back down again. It doesn't mean that I have to always start with the eccentric or the down phase. It just means I need to follow that tempo or that time for each part of the movement. So if we was doing that for each repetition, that would be 4 plus 2 plus 2. And now that's an X. Now let's call that a number 1 because there is some time there. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 9 seconds per repetition. Now if it's 9 seconds per repetition per set, what's seen as a goal for most of the skills, or a good number to aim for, is 30 seconds per set. So if it's 30 seconds per set, I need to be doing just over 3 repetitions to equal 30 seconds time under tension. Now that's already getting quite confusing, so it's a little bit of a mind challenge to work out what you should be doing. And another way to think about it as well is, what if I said to you, I just want you to do eccentric press handstands? So if I want you to do an eccentric press handstand as your skill, the tempo now goes out of the window because we have a hold at the top, we have a down phase, and we have a hold at the bottom, but we don't have a concentric. So we've actually just got rid of this one. So if we've got rid of that one, but we still want 30 seconds time under tension, so then I could put, okay, I want a down phase of 6 seconds. I want to hold at the bottom for 2 seconds. We're not doing a concentric, so I just leave a dash there. And I want to hold at the top to show control in the handstand. 2 seconds equaling a 10-second rep. So I need you to do 3 of those to equal the 30 seconds. So that would look like a hold at the top, 1, 2, then an eccentric, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then a hold, 1, 2, and come back out. And we need to do 3 of those per set. So as you can see, this is quite confusing, especially if you're not a coach, if you're not thinking about these things all the time, working with lots of different levels, and already have an understanding from the basic strength training. It can be super complicated. And this is the reason that I don't actually put all this detail into the programs in my app. I'm trying to make this as simplistic as possible. Now, the people that ask, I'll give them more information and we'll add in numbers as needed. But if you over worry about the numbers, you'll end up stressing about this part. And if you can't balance that eccentric press handstand because you're worried about the numbers more than you are about learning how to balance that, you're never going to achieve your press handstand. So for most people, don't necessarily think about tempo in terms of numbers. Think about controlled repetitions where you're training a full range of motion and don't have any gaps in the skill that you're training towards, making sure that you're hitting the right progressions to allow that. It'd be really cool if we could start a conversation about this down in the comments. I'm really interested to know if you guys want more information like this instead of just the training videos. I want to know whether you're interested in this from a programming point of view. Should I be adding more of this info to my app? Reach out if you have questions. If you're after programming, check out my links in my description to my app and my coaching, and I'll speak to you in the next one.